Thank you, Prof. Hugo, for the invitations. My name is Ahmad Habibi, and I'm from Indonesia. I work for Universitas Jambi as an associate professor, and also I'm an appointed adjunct professor in Korea University since 2024 December. My works is evolving around educational technology, curriculum and instructions, and currently I work with some researchers from other countries like Qatar, Brunei Darussalam, Malaysia, and Singapore on AI ethics or responsible AI, especially with the use in education. So my today's presentations is about AI ethics in Indonesia, balancing innovations and integrity. As we know that protecting privacy and AI use is very important because it addresses data security risks for personal use, especially in education. So that understanding the challenges with the cultural impacts on the way AI data protection is very a current issue, especially in our country, Indonesia, and around our neighborhood countries like Singapore and Malaysia. The first issue that I would like to emphasize on this very good opportunity is the weak data protections in AI system. We know that some AI chatbots like ChatGPT and XAI, Grok, Gemini, and other AIs like DeepSeek are requiring the users to upload or to submit their names, date of birth, and email, and etc. And it relates to the data protections, of course. With a free charge use of AI, it could be a blow in our data exposed. Of course, the fakes or misuse threaten personality rights and individual privacy. Our data can be shared across the platforms around the world, and it is not personal yet. It is not personal already, so that many people can access to our data. That is a very important things to discuss in this current conditions. Of course, in relations to this issue, there are impacts influencing the risk and influencing the personal informations of the users. This is around high risk in critical sectors such as finance and healthcare, where our informations about our bank, our banking account, for example, our health history, disease history could be a critical for us as users of AI. The next one, of course, we are facing lack of unified supervisory institutions to regulate AI privacy. This AI commonly from the United States of America or the USA and China, of course, could be something that I think we have to protect with our institutions. I think in Indonesia itself, the law hasn't been established yet in regulating to protect users' privacy in the use of AI. For example, hospitals face challenges implementing AI ethic frameworks, where hospital around my house here in the city of Jambi, Indonesia, doesn't actually require the patients visiting the hospital to protect their data because they just registered by themselves. I think the use of AI involved there, they could be a kind of uh, opening our privacy to the hospital, and of course it could risk our privacy also. So reports in 2025 highlight privacy breaches in AI based services. We read a lot of resources from the internet that there are breaches in AI services, especially in terms of privacy. Of course, it relates to the cultural angle, like data privacy conflicts with Indonesian values, emphasizing communal trust. We are in Indonesia very community-based people, where work together is a part of our culture, and of course, it could be very risky to open our privacy in this community surrounding, and it is a very against the cultural angles of Indonesian people. So what should we do in this thing is that we have to bridge the digital divide and AI literacy gap, of course, from, for example, urban areas and suburban areas. We call it addressing gender, geographic, and skill barriers to inclusive AI benefits. What is the issue here? Digital access and literacy gaps between especially urban areas and suburban areas in Indonesia. I just want to inform that Indonesia has 17,000 islands scattered from Papua to Aceh, with various diversity in geographical area. This past archipelago could be the weaknesses of Indonesian infrastructure, especially where city area can access the internet in all areas, even in the corner of the city. But in suburban areas, like in the mountainous areas or beaches areas, the access of the internet still becomes the major problems. Where, for example, in this uh, PowerPoints, it explains that for the gender gap in access, women are 20% less connected than men in terms of the internet connections. And of course, low AI literacy among the general public and workforce limit engagement, where nation services, based on their law, with the civil servants as the main people doing services to the people of to the public, so they have actually limited knowledge in AI use and AI data security. The impacts is, of course, inclusions and infrastructure challenges that I said earlier, that infrastructure is the main challenge in Indonesia. Of course, our governments have do and will do the best to limit or to decrease the challenges, especially of the infrastructures. We have a one main providers, telecommunication providers. We call it Telkomsel, that has expanded uh, across the country the internet access, and of course, it is the effort that we make to decrease the gap between cities and villages, between people living in the urban areas with the people living in suburban areas. So AI research, of course, is underfunded also in university and in related institutions compared to neighboring countries in the regions like Singapore and Malaysia and Thailand. So the governments are now trying to boost the fundings for professors around universities to actually improve the quality of the research on the AI ethic. Me myself also, we we are doing research on responsible AIs and ethics in AI that I very earlier mentioned about it. So the next one is workforce skills gaps hinder efforts to identify and mitigate AI bias. That's it relates to the previous explanations on the low AI literacy among the general public workforce or civil servants, we call it in Indonesia. So it amplifies, of course, existing inequalities in access and skills of AI. Yeah, especially in terms of the areas of Indonesian archipelago where I said before that we have 17,000 islands across the country that actually make make it difficult for the government to facilitate uses of technology around across the country from Papua to Aceh, from Merauke to Pulau. So other challenges includes, of course, algorithmic bias in diverse ethnic contexts, and then ethical AI in some fields like hospital. It should balance with opportunity with planning needs. There are problem solving strategies that I offer actually. The first one is strengthen regulations. So this one is especially for Indonesian government where the law enforcement, especially about the regulation, should be maintained. I think on the pre-AI use, the regulations should be regulated. Yeah, before we enter or before we use the AI, we should take the agreements of copyright, agreements of personal data share and privacy issues. The next one is about educations. We need to educate the users of AI in using AI in their field, especially in educations. That could benefit, of course, the users and the country itself, and also the institutions to protect the privacy, especially personal data of the users. The next one, of course, collaborations are needed to strengthen this to solve the problems. The collaborations includes the users, the academicians like professors who are researching about AI, and the regulators that can strengthen the regulations of AI use, especially in education. The next one, innovations with safeguards. It is important, but I think it will be achievable in 10 to 20 years from now because it's not easy for the innovations to make or to guide the AI use in terms of protecting privacy in our country. So of course, the step must have time and effort to tackle because Indonesian itself still developing. We are still doing our best to actually boost the economy, to improve the educations around the country, and of course to stabilize our political environment, especially in resulting a good regulations to strengthen the US AI to protect data of the personal users. So, of course, that's for the long term. For the short term, we need urgent actions on identify gaps to achieve equitable AI. For the recommendations, of course, we have to extend public consultations, integrate Pancasila values in AI guidelines, and of course, monitor via annual audits. That's a very three things that are important for the recommendations on AI use in relations to the data privacy exposed or to protect personal data of Indonesians users. I think this is the key topics in guiding the nation AI ethic journey. We have to introduce to AI adoptions first, especially in rural areas, in suburban areas where I said before that the internet access is not really easy for Indonesians users compared to the people living in the city. And then the government should review also the global AI ethic principle progress. We have to adapt and we have to borrow the regulations from other developed countries in terms of AI use and AI data privacy protections. And of course, the examinations of current national AI initiative should also be watched, especially for academicians who can guide the process of AI regulation establishment to provide and facilitate uses across the country. And then we also should identify key challenges, especially in regulatory gaps, data privacy, and digital divide among the users. We have to discuss it and we have to propose problem solving strategies and recommendations for the users and for the government to regulate how should users use AI for the daily activities and daily purposes. And it will result in the fostering ethical and inclusive AI innovations in Indonesia, of course. I think I'll skip this one because it's not really important to discuss. So this is the global AI ethic principle that should be managed, should be adopted by Indonesia's government. The first one is human rights. The second one is multi-stakeholder governance. Transparency is very important. Fairness in promoting equitable treatment and preventing bias in AI system. And the last but not least is sustainability. We can support environmentally and socially sustainable AI solutions for better future, especially for Gen Z and uh, and the new commerce in AI use, especially in education. So this is challenges in Indonesian AI ecosystem. We have a fragmented ecosystem. We have a societal risk, and then a gender digital access, skill workforce shortage, healthcare AI ethic, and policy and literacy like that I previously also mentioned. This is the gaps actually: fragmented regulatory environment, voluntary guidelines, limited ethical standard adoptions, and ideal comprehensive frameworks. For the first thing, fragmented regulatory environments, Indonesia areas lacks of enforcements, of course, that I have previously explained, and relying on law like PDP law without AI specific mandates. We have multi-circle provides non-binding guidance, lacking the authority of independent oversight bodies found in the other countries. So we have to learn from other countries how to develop like a voluntary guidelines, especially for the to facilitate the regulations in AI use for the kindness of the people, for the data protections also. And the next one, I think it should involve the professors in a university to actually provide ethical standard. So ethical standard is very important. We have to produce more books on how AI should be used, should be evaluated around the country. And it is very important to make it efficient and effective in using AI, as well as it should uh, follow the regulations of the ethical AI. The next one is ideal comprehensive framework, of course, with the collaborations around the stakeholders, users, professors, or academicians, and regulators. There should be an ideal comprehensive framework to facilitate the use of AI and to actually limit the AI owners to access the data of the users in the future. So this is the conclusions. Yeah. So we have weak data protections, deep fakes. We have hospitals, especially. We have supervisory institutions, breach incidents that I have previously mentioned, and of course, to address this challenge, are is the main concerns of Indonesian people that I think to better the use of AI in the futures in terms of protecting personal data so that the data breach is not happening again in the future. I hope the share from Indonesians users of AI, me as the speakers, I provide the presentations about AI use in Indonesia as well as data protections is the key challenge of Indonesia's government to regulate the use of AI in terms of protecting users on the use of AI. I think that's all from me. Thank you very much, from Hugo, for inviting me through this video. I think I can share a little bit about the picture of AI, data privacy, and AI use in Indonesian context. I hope that it can be beneficial in sharing our knowledge, especially in Spain. Um, Send my warm regards to all of your students and colleagues in Spain, Universidad de Malaga, and I hope we can, we can meet face to face in the future. Thank you and goodbye.